So I want to just give my shout outs. Number one, I want to thank Lauren and her team for having us here today. So thank you so much, Lauren. I also want to thank, as I said, my team. Also thank my dude DJ, my son Nico, who are here hanging out with us today. So please give them a hand. Also, you see Chester High. I am also a proud graduate of Chester High School, and they just had a huge event last weekend. So I want to give a shout out to Chester High, my class. No. Of course your family comes in. That's right. Anywho, so today, takeaways from today's conversation. At the end of this session, I would like everyone to be able to define the difference between mediocre and average. Examine how negative behavior can dismantle an organization. Identify 5 strategies to combat a culture of average and ordinary. Evaluate their prospective organization's culture. I'm going to park that for a moment. The reason why I said perspective is because I'm sure there are some people here or some people that you know that are thinking, I want to be a member of a fraternity or sorority, but I don't know the questions I should ask, or I don't know which way to turn. And so you can let them know, your friend, your cousin, your relative, hey, listen, you want to be a part of fraternities and sororities? These are the questions that you need to ask. This is the research that you need to do. Because how many of you, when you became a member of your organization, you did some research? Your research could have been, hey, listen, I'm interested in this fraternity. And you said that to your roommate. Can you tell me what exactly I should look for? Because at the end of the day, let me share this with you, you better research. You better check out your organization before you join it. Also, you will learn how to construct a plan for your organization that will allow you to disseminate a mediocre or average culture. So according to Inversions and Deceptions, there is a new model of society. So we call it mediocrity. Now I know some of you may think that's not a real word. Yes, it is. Mediocrity is a real word. It is the rule of the mediocre, the triumph of style over substance. Now, according to inversionsanddeceptions.com, their definition is, in a mediocrity, real cultural progress is impossible because it requires conditions that are incompatible with a commitment to egalitarianism, which is the doctrine that all people are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. There is no room for genuine cultural innovators because one cannot permit any individual to think they are special. Nevertheless, mediocrity maintains a cultural elite to validate its ersatz, which is made or used as a substance or substitute, typically an inferior one, the culture, and to protect it from criticism. So you may not have heard of mediocrity, right? I need to come away from here for just a moment. Is this okay, Ula? I can use this? Okay, testing. There we go. You got me? Okay. So you may not have heard of mediocrity, right? But the definition that I gave of mediocrity, does that sound familiar to any of you? In somebody else's organization?
Ooh.
What about your own organization? Have you looked around and said, wow, we got it going on. Our culture is lit. I mean, we got a culture. You know how I was telling everybody to take the selfies? Our culture is all that, right? Or are you really taking a step back and say, you know what, we need some help here? Mediocrity. So before we even get started, let's look at the definitions, because I am one, when I teach, I like breaking down and starting at the beginning. We use all these big words, and you may think, okay, you ever heard of $2 words, $5 words? You may not know the definition. We are going to start at the beginning. Wait a minute. Someone give me a definition of mediocrity. Now let me share this with you. I used to be a TV host. So that means I'm used to interviewing people, walking around, putting a mic in their face. So let me share this with you. If I don't get a volunteer, a mic will go in someone's face. So, volunteer, what is the definition of mediocrity? See, first of all, you're the one that I heard all the way over there. Okay, so what is your name?
Frank.
Frank. Okay. So, what is your definition of mediocrity?
It's plain average.
Just plain average. You agree with that? I saw you clapping, so you agree with that? Does everyone agree with that? Someone else, because I'm going to call someone else. Trust me when I tell you. Definition. What do you think with mediocrity? Going once. I work out so I can run to you. There you go. Come on. And what is your name?
Brittany.
Hi, Brittany. How are you? What's your definition?
Like settling, then instead of like going beyond your needs, you just settle for
I feel that. She said settling. So he said just plain blah, and you said settling. Okay. Give me one more. What is your name?
Alexander.
Alexander. Break it down. What's your definition?
It is to fade into the background, to not stand out above anyone else.
Yes! Alexander! That brother is deep. All of you are right. All of you are right. The definition of mediocrity . The quality of or state of being mediocre, which is low quality, value, performance. It's just, all of you were right. Now this is what I know. I mentioned this was my husband. This is my husband. We've been married a long time. A long time. Let me share this with you. If my husband was a mediocre boyfriend, he would not be my husband. Trust me when I tell you, okay? Not at all. That's a tip for all of you. So you look at the slide, mediocrity is opposite of excellence. Okay. So, Nnamdi Azikiwe, who was the first president of Nigeria, author of My Odyssey, #5, educated at Lincoln University and member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, said, "There is plenty of room at the top because very few people care to travel beyond the average route."
Ouch.
And it says, and so most of us seem satisfied to remain within the confines of mediocrity. Why is that? Why do you think people want to just stay just mediocre? I haven't even touched average. Why do you think so?
Easy.
It's easy? What else? You can shout it out. Comfortable. Laziness. Complacent. What'd you say? Doesn't require them to push themselves. Let me share this with all of you lovely college students. In today's society, you cannot be mediocre. You can't.
You can.
Because here's the thing. If you want to succeed, if you want to go to the next level, if you want to excel, no. You might have been even a mediocre high school student. Some of you might have been. But through college, and most definitely after college, you cannot. If you want to get to where you want to get to, you cannot be a mediocre student, adult, member of a fraternity and sorority. So what is average? Now I'm coming to you with that. Someone tell me what average is. Okay, and what is your name?
Squid.
Squid. How you doing, Squid? I'm good. So, Squid. Average.
You're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing.
That's why they call you Squid.
Step above.
You're doing the same thing that everyone else is doing. Nothing about you stands out. You're average, you're ordinary. Now, we as members of fraternities and sororities, Greek life, we are not average and ordinary, are we?
No.
No.
Ask it again.
You know I'm coming to you.
Tell 'em, girl.
You tell me why we are not average and ordinary.
We have higher standards than everyone else.
Hey.
Okay.
She said we have higher standards than everyone else. So if that's the case, why didn't I hear everyone say, that's right, oh no. We have to know that we are not average. We went through the process and we earned these Greek letters. Am I right? Not only that, we work in the communities, right? We build each other up, right? So average and ordinary should never apply to any of us. You're college students, right? I don't know.
I don't know.
You know?
Are you college
We're on
students?
campus, but
Hear me. When we walk across campus with our Greek letters, because I have mine on, yes indeed. When we walk across, it doesn't matter what Greek letters you have. People say, oh, that's so-and-so. That's Squid.
That's no bro. He the bro.
That's Lisa. That's Lauren. That's Ryan. Now, what they normally say is that's Zeta Lisa. Am I right? So if they call us by our Greek affiliation, then we should walk in here, carry ourselves, be top students instead of being average. mediocre. We're fraternities and sororities, right? So we are not average and ordinary, no matter what the newscasters say, no matter what social media says. And that's something all of you have to get down in your heads. How many of you are planning, it could be next month, it could be next year. How many of you are planning to grow your chapters? Okay. So let me ask you a question. What type of membership do you want to bring into your chapters? Do you want to bring in mediocre, average members? Why not? Someone tell me, why don't you want to bring an average person into your chapter? All right, wait a minute, I'm coming to you.
No.
Get my steps in.
Fitbit challenge.
What's your name? Hi, Chris.
Because they don't show up, they don't do anything.
Ooh, they don't show up. That's
Why-
good.
Why you want that? If they're going to join and go through the activities to join, why should you just sit there and deal with it?
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear what he said?
Well,
Let's go.
they're gonna just sit there and do nothing. Why should you even initiate them?
Exactly.
We all go through the same stuff to get into these fraternities and sororities at the end of the day. We all know essentially what we all went through. Why should they be able to skate by and not do stuff when the rest of us are there busting our asses trying to do stuff and they get to slide in the background?
Give it up for Chris.
That's real.
You got one down.
He's right. Oh, wait a minute. Someone up here. Who? And your name again?
Sam,
This is Sam, everyone.
you want to bring in people to your organization who will better the people who are already in it and who you can also better.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone hear that?
Yes.
Just walk your line. Someone else and then... Come on, and what is your name?
Jamie. We want to allow people to grow, and if they're average, they don't want to grow, so we can't really benefit them anyway.
And then I got you. Oh, wait a minute, get up.
Being in the fraternity and sorority, we're already supposed to be looked up as to hold a higher standard. So bringing someone that's average, they say one person reflects a whole organization. So someone that may be average can reflect your whole organization in a negative way, when it may not even be the case. It just may be that one person. So we want to bring in people that are above average that can uphold that standard that we're already supposed to have.
It was over here.
My name is Mike. Well, simply that your chapter ends up becoming mediocre, and I think you're only strong as your weakest link.
Ladies and gentlemen, Squid.
Hey, it's Squid again. You want to bring in new members to your organization that are going to leave it much better than it was when they entered.
Mm-hmm.
So all the answers were very good. I agree with everyone. Oh, you have something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris left something.
All right, wait a minute. What is your name?
No, stop.
DJ. Chris said something softly the first time, that he left out the second time, that he made his statement about the type of individuals you want to bring. He said they don't show up. Showing up is important. It's not just a physical attribute, but it has something to do with your attitude, your whole mentality, and about what you bring to the table and what you're willing to leave on the table. So you have to be in a place where what you're doing has to do with whether or not you show up every day.
I told you. Didn't I tell you?
You want to bring in people to your organization that you feel comfortable leaving it to when you graduate.
Absolutely. That's huge.
Now that one there, and what is your name again?
Devin.
That's good.
I have to let that one sink in myself.
That's a legacy statement.
It is. So I have a question. Because everyone's answers were so on point, right? Everyone's answers were so on point. But here's the question I want everyone to ask themselves. If you don't have a culture that is excellent, how can you attract excellent people?
You need to say that in the mic.
Okay. If you don't have a culture that is excellent, how can you attract excellent people? Because let me share this with you again, because I've been on this road just a little longer than you. We attract who we are. So if our culture is excellent, we're going to attract those excellent potential members. But if we're ones that settle, that try to get by, that don't show up, that don't do work, that just like to rock the letters, do the signs and the calls, and we're not doing anything else, that's what we're going to attract. So excellence is the quality of being outstanding or extremely good. So in order for us to have those members, I'm not saying perfect, because nobody can be perfect. I'm saying excellent, being outstanding or extremely good, because at the end of the day, we are what? Members of Greek letter organizations. That's who we are. Doesn't matter what colors, it doesn't matter what letters. We are members of Greek letter organizations. So, let's look a little deeper. Let's look a little deeper here. So, homecoming was last week, right? Was homecoming lit?
That's a lot of mixed reviews.
Okay, I'm sorry. So, homecoming, picture this. Because I want all of you to really look at what mediocre and average and excellence looks like in picture form. Okay? So, picture this. You are the president of your fraternity. Oh, you are in leadership. And at homecoming, pictures were taken all around because at the end of the day, you want everybody on campus to know that you are the best fraternity. You got it going on. And so, he's laughing. And so, you want everybody to know it. Because in the back of your mind, you are ready to start your membership process. So you have to remember that your generation, your culture is all about snapping. Right? So am I right? Yes, I am right. Snapchat and Instagram. So you know you want the pictures to look just right, to represent your fraternity. So you tell someone, hey, listen, I want you to take the picture and I want you to post it on Instagram. And you trust that person because you're the president, right? And so with your awesome leadership skills, they're going to post the best picture that represents your organization and its culture. And that's what they posted. So looking at this picture, how many of you use Instagram? So, is that a good picture for Instagram?
Nah.
For the purpose, for the purposes, no.
Okay, so can you see what's happening here?
No.
You can't see what's going on here? But it's homecoming. This was the homecoming party. Can't you see it?
Nah.
No.
Nah.
So you don't think this is a good picture?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Nah.
Why? Because it's blurry? You can't see what's going on.
Can't see faces.
The person that posted it thought it was okay. See, because their definition of what is excellent and your definition were two different things. Because they looked at it and said, oh, this is beautiful. This is awesome.
It's a screensaver.
They were blurry when they took it.
Yeah, they were blurry.
That's a screensaver.
Yeah, it was, yes, yes.
Shoot.
This shows how a person's perception could be different than yours. I'll give you another one. So, second picture that describes something. Again, as the president of the chapter, again, I'm picking on the leadership because I'm picking on the leadership today. Because at the end of the day, whether you realize it or not, the leadership sets the tone.
Mm-hmm.
The leader sets the tone. So, this chapter of a sorority, they are the best Greek letter organization on campus. They donate at least $200 at their charitable events every year. Every year, $200. And they do the required community events. They do the community service every single year. Life is good, membership is good, recruitment is up, all is Gucci. All is Gucci. That's right, like Gucci.
Gucci.
But what they find out is after the survey was conducted with the other students to find out what chapters are doing well, they find out that this was what their chapter looked like.
Break it down for them.
I know, let it sink in.
Yeah, you gotta let it sink in.
Is everything different?
You got married. No.
Your chapter is average. It looks like everything else, everyone else. It's just plain. Then you hear everyone say, what is that? I don't know.
Ain't that a croissant?
That's something you cannot do. Your chapter, when you want to be the one that recruits those members, you cannot look like everyone else. You can't do like everyone else. You have to be like this. Excellent. I want to be a part of that. I want to do that. When people think about your organization, it has to be one where they're like, I want to be a part of that. You understand now? Maybe not. I got something for you. This is mediocrity. When you have a culture that looks like that, and you reward it and say, great job. Now let me share this with you. Some of you are here. I didn't have a conversation, I'm just saying. Some of you had a culture, this, I'm saying had because things are going to change when you leave here, of mediocrity was rewarded. Oh, that's a great job. You did one community service event this year. Great job. How many community service events are you required to do each year? Someone tell me. Are you required to do community service?
10 hours.
10 hours. 1 hour is not excellent. 2 hours is not excellent. You know what excellent is? 12 hours. Going past what's required. All right. Got something for you. Okay? I want to show you what it looks like in full plain view. Now, for the ones that were, how many of you were in my workshop this morning? It's not going to be, I'm not going to mess you up. I'm not going to mess you up like before, okay? Okay, let's get it.
Hey, I see you. You saw me. Oh, I love this song. I love this song. I love this song. I love this. Is it playing? I don't think it's playing. I don't think it's playing, son. Amazing.
Are you popular? Because I heard. Y'all tell me, is Ryan popular? Yeah. Why are you being mediocre? Why are you acting like you? Why you
Hello? Is it working?
You're good.
Can you hear Ryan, everybody?
Yep. Let's go.
Maybe they think they're excellent.
Hey everybody, can you give me some music for a moment? Give me some music.
Rice under black beans. Walked in the apple with cracked screens and told prophetic stories of freedom. Found warmth in a black queen for when I get cold like Nat King. I'm doing the dad thing. I speak of wondrous, unfamiliar lessons from childhood. Make you remember how to smile good. I'm pre-currency, post-language, anti-label, pro-famous. I'm Broadway Joe Namath. Kanye's best prodigy. He ain't
Everybody, everybody.
I got some ideas that
Hey everybody. Hey, how you doing? This is your girl Michelle T. And I am coming to you live from Facebook with our weekly show called Campus Life with Shell. So we are highlighting homecoming events because I heard that homecoming was kind of, I don't know, but it's okay because we're talking about fraternities and sororities, right?
Right.
Am I all right? Am I okay? Okay. We're talking about fraternities and sororities, so we're highlighting the fraternities and sororities. So this week, we have, thank you so much. This week, we are showcasing Iota, Omega, Iota fraternity, Beta, Alpha chapter. And we have Tom. How you doing, Tom? And then we have here Brianna, who is a member of the president of the chess club. I want to make sure that I'm reading your credentials right. She's president of the chess club and a non-Greek student. Brianna, show everybody out there on social media, wave to them. And then we have Mrs. Bartley, who is the Dean of Students and member of 555 Sorority Incorporated, Zeta Delta Chapter. Wave to everybody. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for coming. So I want to start with Tom. Hey, what's up, Tom?
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Oh, well, how are you?
I'm good.
So, Tom, what I want you to do is please tell the audience, how long have you been a member of Iota Omega Iota chapter?
2 wonderful Iota years.
Oh, wow, that is great. That's great. So since you've been a member for 2 wonderful years, I'm sure your fraternity has done so many community service projects, right?
Yes. In fact, we do many service projects in the community. We feed the children and provide toys during the holidays. We do coat and jacket drives in the winter and the spring. This past spring, we encouraged the TB Greek community to boycott one of the scheduled events because of the unfair treatment that was shown to us by the administration. And we have 5 members of our chapter serving on the Greek Phi Greek Council Executive Board.
Wow, that is hot, Tom. That is hot. So your chapter's leadership must be effective because you're focusing on the community.
It is. In fact, we're about to bring in some new members. Oh, wait, this is live, right?
Yes, it is.
Oh.
This is on Facebook Live.
Sorry, I lied. That's not true.
Okay, well, okay, well, thank you. So next we'll have Brianna. Hey, Brianna.
Hey, girl.
How you doing?
I'm good.
So what do you think about what Tom was saying about his chapter?
I don't know what fraternity Tom's a part of, because they don't do that.
Okay, they don't?
No. I don't know what coats and food drive they be doing, him and his people, because the only coats I see them is the coats they wear on Thursday, so they won't be cold. And what children, are you talking about his brothers?
So wait a minute, Bree. So what I hear you saying is they don't work in the community?
No. I'm lying, you're lying. I mean, my brother wanted to join that fraternity and they were so unorganized, he changed his mind.
Okay, so what you're telling me is that the brothers of Iota Omega Iota fraternity, Beta Alpha chapter are not role models on campus? Because you know this is live, right? This is Facebook Live.
No, for 1,000, Alex. What do they do?
Okay.
They don't speak to anybody who's non-Greek. They don't attend any functions that are non-Greek. So how are they part of the community? I'll wait.
So last question. Let me get back to my, so I got it, because I got my little script here. So last question, Brianna. Do you think the brothers of Iota Omega Iota Fraternity Incorporated Beta Alpha chapter, are they headed in the right direction? She heard me. She asked my question. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Mrs. Barkley, jump in. Tell me what? Come on. Let me bring you in on this.
Finally, let me tell you about this chapter. When I have campus-wide meetings for student boards, Every member of the Iota Omega Fraternity Inc. Beta Alpha chapter arrived 20 minutes late. And when they sit down, all they do is they're playing on their cell phones or snapping for the remaining time.
So, Mrs. Barkley, you don't agree with Tom that his chapter does a lot of community service?
Shall no.
Oh.
The protest. Let's talk about that. Tom said their chapter encouraged the TBW Greek community to boycott one of the scheduled events because of the unfair treatment that was shown to them by the administration. Incorrect. The chapter was on the verge of suspension because of a new policy that was implemented, changing the recruitment process. Those students staged a boycott of an important anti-hazing program to cover up the fact that they were taking some students online, underground, at the same time as the program. They have been getting away with this behavior for years, until about a year ago, when they tried it with me, because I was new in my position. They didn't know I am an old school Greek. Ain't nobody got time for foolishness. I know the crazy.
This is all lies. From my understanding, our chapter has always got high excellence scores because of our brotherhood and unity until she came along.
You and your brothers are crazy. There's a new sheriff in town, and it's not Iota Omega Iota Fraternity Beta Alpha chapter.
You're a liar.
You're a liar. You're calling me a liar?
Tell a lie.
You're telling me a liar. I don't know who you think you're talking to, but how dare you? Well, tune in next week where we will have the winners of who is the best fraternity and sorority. Definitely not Iota. Okay. Peace. I like to give Ryan a hand. Ryan, thank you, Ryan. I gotta take my wig off.
Oh my Lord.
Thanks, Dawn. Thanks, Brianna. Let's bring this back up. So that looked a little crazy, didn't it? That looked very, very crazy. Very crazy. So if you looked at the skit, basically it was the fact that something we talked about a little earlier, that Ryan's character, Tom, thought his culture was awesome. They did community service, of course with the coat drive, and they did various things, but the people on the outside said something different. How many of us have ever been in a situation where you may have been working, you're tunneled, you're trying to get your paper due, and then people are saying, you're not being sociable. Or people are saying, hey, listen, you forgot to do X, Y, and Z. That's the same thing. People can see what's happening outside of the frame. And so that's one of the things that affects, or that's one of the things that happens when you have a culture that deals with mediocrity. So now it's time to change, right? Now I remember this morning in our workshop, there was a young man, he said, listen, he said, when I came here, I want to hear about how to change. I want to hear about the good stuff. I want to hear, thank you so much, thank you, let's give it up for the crew. I want to hear about how to change. How can I go from a mediocre culture to a good culture, or from a good culture to an average culture, from an average culture to a great culture, from a great culture to an excellent culture? How do I do that? I'm going to tell you how to do it. us drive a car. You drive a car. You kind of drive it. You drive a car. So you drive your car, and you realize that you see that red light that goes on with the looks like a little a lamp and dots coming out. The oil light. I got that. Next time I'll take care of that. But you see that. So you know when you see that, it's time for a what?
Oil change.
An oil change. So you take it to someone or a place that can do the oil change for you. Also, you may get a diagnostic, right?
Yes.
Some of them are like, I don't know. My dad does that. My mom does that. I don't know. That is the same thing that you can do to find out what's going on in your culture. This is my suggestion. Start with your own chapter. Set aside a day where you have food and distribute a survey and say, listen, we're going to find out what's going on in our culture and get to the root of what is going on. Then from there, you will talk about it. So let me ask you a question. How many of you go to the doctors and get a physical? This is the same thing. See, it's time out for hearing, I don't know how my culture is. It's time to change. It's time for all of us as members of fraternities and sororities to become bigger and better than we were when we walked through that door. Don't be afraid to say, excuse me. What's your name? Zach. Don't be afraid to say, hey, Zach, listen. I'm a fraternity man, and I'm in a different one, or in a different organization. Hey, listen, can we sit down, can we talk? What do you see that's going on in my organization? Yes, I'm saying reach across the aisles. Because at the end of the day, you're all still members of fraternities and sororities. So I'm saying, hey, Zach, listen. We are getting ready to go through a recruitment process. And last year, we didn't get the numbers that we wanted. And I had a conversation with the brothers in my organization, and they're complaining. I'm not going to use the word that some of you use, but they're complaining and saying that we need to go to the next level. And I see, Zach, that your organization brought in 20 new brothers last year. I see, Zach, that your organization does 15 community events. I see, Zach, that your organization received awards after awards. What are you doing? See, for us to be the best members of fraternities and sororities we can be, we're going to have to step outside of our four walls called our organizations. We're going to have to say, hey, listen, can you help me? That help could be each other. That help could be from Lauren. But at the end of the day, we're all building this Greek house, right? Yes. And we want it to be bigger and better than it was last year. This is a gorgeous house, right? We want our culture to be that and not that. Uh-huh. Yes. So in order to get there, you're going to have to step outside of your community and say, hey, listen, I need some help. At the end of the day, it's no longer acceptable for us to have a culture that is rewarded. Mediocrity is rewarded. It's time out for our culture to be one that's just average and ordinary. It's time for the fraternities and sororities at Widener University to put their fraternity and sororities on the map. For a good reason. Not because of this craziness that you hear on the news, but because you're an excellent organization. I'm not talking about councils. I'm talking about us being Greeks. Talking about us being members of X, Y, and Z. I'm gonna leave you with this. This is a quote by Eric Thomas. He said, average won't cut it. He said, here's the thing about being average. It's average. And you're anything but. You're built to reach higher, to be stronger, to be faster, to feel your best and still push for better. Average will always be out there. But as partners, we can always stay one step ahead. See you at the top, because the bottom is too crowded. Peace out. Thank you so much.